Director of the National Technical University of Athens, to open the workshop. Professor Boudoubis, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Katerina. Dear colleagues, teachers, students, university administrators from all over Europe, to my capacity as the rector of the National Technical University of Athens, I welcome you all to the European workshop on distance learning. On behalf of the NTUA people who are involved in the organization of the workshop, I express our pleasure and honor to be the hosts of today's event. The workshop is organized by a European University Alliance established to serve the purpose of linking society and technology to shape sustainable future. Professor Christina von Haaren, Vice President for International Affairs and Sustainability from Leibniz University in Hannover, will introduce our alliance. What is the new normal in distance learning in European universities? Before we address this question, we need to understand and actually assess in qualitative and quantitative terms our experience still ongoing with distance learning imposed by the pandemic. I taught undergraduate class in fluid mechanics in the School of Chemical Engineering of NTUA for 2 semesters, one in the spring of last year and another this year. And in a few days, actually, I'm going to give an exam to a class of more than 200 students. It will be a mixed exam. Most students will take the exam in person and some from a distance. I have not seen my students for 2 consecutive years. I did not have the chance to interact with them with physical discussion through body language, eye contact, and spontaneous reactions and automatic adaptation to circumstances and happenings that is the traditional normal in usual classroom teaching and laboratory training. I will not be able actually to recognize most of them when passing by in the building's corridors or the various campus places when the anti-pandemic measures are over. My colleagues, the teaching personnel in NTUA, as in many other places all over the world, rolled up their sleeves from day one and started Zooming, Teaming, Webexing. And so did the students from the other end of the line. And they did that with a lot of patience, determination, and great sense of responsibility. It was like we were all prepared to deal with an adverse and extremely demanding situation of the kind of the pandemic. And we did all these things while taking care of our own health and the health of our families and loved ones and those close to us, keeping social distance, dealing with lockdowns, and obeying reduced mobility rules. Although education went digital, that was an one-way choice, there could not be but very limited virtual substitution of certain activities, such as hands-on laboratory training an engineering student has to go through. What are the consequences and limits of going digital? As far as mainly students as well as teachers, strength limits, psychological and otherwise, are concerned. How about learning outcomes, examinations integrity, implications on European student and staff mobility? One thing is for sure, that we feel that we have reached a point of saturation, even exhaustion. The pros and cons of distance learning will be the basis in shaping the new normality. Here are what some NTUA students had to say about some pros of remote education. I save at least 2 hours of travel and have more time to read. Great viewing comfort. The blackboard looks perfect and does not depend on our seat in the auditorium. Those of us who have used to live away from our families now live with them, saving effort and money. We are not late for class. We wake up later than before. a few minutes before the lesson starts, comfortable and relaxed, and do not experience any travel delays. And a last comment from the students. We do not miss lectures. Sometimes when we are pressed for time to complete the task, we may choose not to attend a virtual lecture, but we can return to it in an asynchronous way. What will be the mixture of digital and physical, remote versus in-person, as we progress with the anti-COVID measures, locally and globally? As I understand, the majority of the US universities are planning to go hybrid next fall with a stronger preference towards in-person teaching. That most likely will be the prevailing choice in Europe. In this virtual workshop, academic educators and university students from the 9 universities of our alliance will discuss distance learning as a new learning modality for social, technical, and pedagogical perspectives. Our keynote speaker, Professor Pedro Luis Martinez, Vice Rector for Strategy and Digital University of Murcia in Spain, will address key issues of remote education in our era. Success stories and lessons learned in the COVID era will be started and discussing and shared within panel discussions to identify advantages and opportunities for universities and work towards sustainable solutions for the European higher education area. Before closing, my thanks to the NTUA team for the hard work regarding the preparation of this meeting, and in particular, the chair, Professor Katerina Adam, Professor Ioanna Rousaki, Antonia Labropoulou, Katerina Makrinou, and our virtual floor manager, Yannis Dzikounakis, and our technical team, who will be under alert in the front and backstage for the duration of the event. And I also thank the rectors and the presidents of the Alliance for supporting our proposal to run this workshop, the study and education working group members, the moderator, the panelists, and the attendees. Let's go for a fruitful and vivid virtual conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Andreas Boudouvis. I would like now to invite Professor Christina von Haaren, Vice President of International Affairs and Sustainability of the Leibniz University of Hannover, to present to us the University Alliance, Shape Linking Society and Technology for Sustainable Futures. Professor Haaren, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Should I share my slides or will you do that?
You can do whatever is easier for you.
Okay, then I try. Sorry, they don't show up, though I have to...
Okay, Christina, we'll take care. We'll take care.
Strange. Okay, then I will stop here. Okay, thank you, Katharina. Thank you, Andreas, for this introduction. And thank you. I would like to join into the thanks which Andreas just gave to the team who organized this, because the European University, the alliance which we are forming right now, is living of such initiatives and such great devotion which we experienced over the last weeks, especially from the NTUA team. And without this initiative, I think this wouldn't have happened today, though the subject which you choose is, I think, extremely pressing and also present in all our universities, and all of us are talking about this. And so this is an excellent example, I think, for the possibilities and the potential which the European University is unleashing, I would say, which is present in all our universities. And let me also link to what Andreas just said, the description of what happened in the NTUA, in the TU Athens, is exactly what we could transfer to Hanover, what we experience here, and I'm sure also the other universities and members and participants here can join in, because that is something we now have to master in each university, but also we can better master that together. And it also opens a lot of potential for joint teaching. The University Alliance, which we formed, consists of 9 universities, and it's a very interesting and very a mixture with a lot of potential, consisting of universities with a focus on technical affairs, and of universities which are kind of mixed, like Hanover University, but also of universities which have a more social science and humanities focus. So these 9 universities have united in the mission to link, as a subject, to link society and technology and advances in society and technology, and to create a more sustainable future. The European University Linking Science and Technology, with the acronym ULIS we use, is of course inspired by the European Universities Program. We started writing a proposal to submit to the EU. Now this has been postponed, but nevertheless you can see that all the universities we brought together here, they are very devoted and said, okay, let's do this nevertheless, because there is an added value, a benefit for all of us in this endeavor, in this activity. Next slide, please. So something which also has been mentioned by Andreas is that universities are in the regions or in the societies in which we are embedded are something special. I was also very impressed to see how this intrinsic motivations of the university members enabled us to switch from one day to another almost to distance learning last year. And now we have a lot of experience, but at that time we did not. And this, nevertheless, this happened almost in the blink of an eye, and everybody, the students, the teachers, administration, work together in a very engaged way. And this is something which is, I think, indeed something which is special and a potential which we can draw on, and which, when we bring this together in an alliance of several universities, we enlarge our potential in many ways. And this wonderful conference here about this very timely subject is one example, I think, for what joining strength can result in, so that we can work with shared labor. One party does this, the other that, and nevertheless we can offer our students a great educational program, which is not only fed by our own university, but we join our strength and our excellency. We said our central theme will be to work in the field how society and technology interact sustainably under the premise of the SDGs, the development goals for the world, sustainable development goals for the world. And we will start with a kind of selection, but nevertheless we are following, every university can follow the what they choose, but nevertheless we found that we have a kind of overlap especially in quality education. And this first event here is an example for that, in clean renewable energies, in industry innovation, and in sustainable cities and communities. Next slide, please. Our objectives are to join the strategies and for teaching, research, and outreach. And a core objective of all of us is innovative teaching formats, innovating learning formats, and we want to offer our students a seamless mobility between the partner universities. And this will grow step by step. We are happy that we will have some time, but we also have a great advantage now, because we have the experiences of the pandemic time, and we will see what will come out of that, the mixing physical and digital mobility in a hybrid and very clever way. Then another goal of the network is that we want to create an inter-university green campus, joining our best practice examples from the different universities, developing the campuses everywhere in the alliance, and also maybe showing to the regions, showing to the society what a university can achieve in this respect. And finally, of course, we want to be drivers into the regions in which we are embedded with our single universities, but also as a network, and work there as a driver of development, but also supporting networking of science society in the regions and with societal institutions. So that is our vision, and this conference here is a very good start, I think. We have several projects which we try to realize right now, but I'm very happy that we start here with this really great teaching initiative, and I'm really grateful to TU Athens that they started this initiative and also organized it so excellently, and I must say in a very short time. Thank you. So also joining also different organizing cultures, I think brings, I wouldn't know whether the Germans would have been so fast. So joining the different organizing cultures is already, I think, an added value which we can harvest right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Haren. Thank you very much indeed. With this opportunity, we would like to invite our keynote speaker, Professor Martinez, Vice Rector for Strategy and Digital University from the University of Murcia, to give us his keynote speech, A Strategic View on the Future of Higher Education Online Teaching. Professor Martinez, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure being here, sharing with you views and probably generating more questions than answers on this very interesting topic idea that you have selected. I think it's a very good opportunity for a great consortium to reflect and think about what's the future of online learning in the European arena. In this regard, I've been reflecting on several stages, which is what happened with COVID-19 to what we were already doing. And then we'll have a little view on what could be the possible futures on how online teaching and learning can evolve in our European arena. The reality is that, I mean, universities were already facing digital transformation before COVID-19. And for most of us, we were all thinking on new ways to make the most of technology in order to increase the competitiveness of our institutions. And the reality is that technology opens up a lot of new opportunities, especially in whatever is related to teaching and learning. However, there are a lot of different challenges that higher education is going to have to face in this decade. And in fact, many of those challenges already remain, not only before COVID, but also in post-COVID. And in that sense, we were already working and thinking on how to adapt our institutions and our business models to this new reality that was about to come. Things like personalized learning, like long life learning, digital credentials, or even data or learning analytics were already here before the pandemic. But the reality is that when the pandemic suddenly appears, of course, it creates a strong disruption. And then we need to move faster than we were moving. We were taking this like some possible future. And then we realized that it's not a possible future. It's a reality which is already here. And I think in higher education institutions, we will have like 3 different phases on how we will approach learning and teaching. The first phase was basically learning continuity, trying to continue our teaching and learning activities with the help of technology and in an emergency situation. Phase 2, to me, is basically when what did happen after the first severe disruption, when we enter into the preparation of the current course, 2020-2021. Most of universities, we were trying to introduce some novelties, improve our tools, and basically incorporate the lessons learned during the first phase. And finally, there is the phase 3, which I think is still about to come, which is what's going to be this new normal, and what will be the future that we will have to face, and how can we evolve all the effort we've been doing into making our institutions prepared for such future. In that sense, in phase 1, I think more or less all universities have suffered the same situation, and we've been doing a lot of effort to move our classes online, or LMS is, I mean, the virtual campuses experienced a very huge increase in use. We've been basically relying on video conferencing to basically continue doing synchronous instruction. This actually allowed us to like really have a fast reaction to the pandemic. But we all recognize that probably that was not the best model, and we were more in doing some kind of emergency response teaching than really an online learning. So for the second phase, I think, again, the most heard keyword, or I would say now even buzzword, is hybrid learning. And I think, most universities, we've been working on improving our basic technological tools. We've been introducing multimedia into all of our lecture rooms. We've been offering our teachers or faculty a whole new bunch of utilities they can use to enhance the experience of their teaching and learning, increasing interactivity. And of course, we've been also basically help them improve their capabilities and make them digital enabled so that they can adapt their activities and to the new possibilities that they could be using in this course. And this is how I think we have been transitioned through these 2 main phases. Now I would like to ask you, to follow this link and let's do a small poll about what's your initial feeling about the preparedness of your institution for online learning and teaching in the years to come. So if you follow this link, you will be able to enter into this online poll, and I will ask you, I will wait a minute so that you can introduce your answers, and then I will comment a little bit on this first perception on how prepared we feel we are for online learning. Okay, some answers are already getting in. Okay, there's still a lot of people answering, so I will wait a little bit more. Okay, last 30 seconds. Okay, time to show the results. So let me, sorry. So at the moment, I'm sorry, I had to change my screen so that you can see the results. Okay, so sorry, I have a problem with permissions, so I will directly tell you the results. Okay. So at the moment, the results are as follows. 10% of participants think that their institution is very well prepared and no further investments are needed. 54% feel that they are very well prepared, but they still need to improve the capabilities of their faculty. This is the most voted option. Then at 22%, which is the second option, feels that the faculty is very well prepared, but they are lacking like technical capabilities. They need more tools. And 15% thinks that they lack important capabilities, both technologically and front of faculty. None of the respondents feel that they are not prepared at all to offer online learning. I think that's more or less like what I would expect to be a natural result, in the sense that we have done a lot of effort to improve our capabilities during this more than 1 year. And in reality, I think we have done a very good effort and we have improved quite a lot. The thing is, if the offer we are already doing is good enough to be competitive in the future. And then we'll talk a little bit more about the future later on, so that we can think if probably we still keep our opinion or we change it. But the thing is that many people has confused this remote emergency teaching with online learning, and they are basically not the same. So in some cases, even though experience may not be the best, that doesn't mean that online must be worse than on premises or vice versa. I mean, they are just orthogonal questions. So in that sense, what is important is to know where we are in terms of maturity for online learning, and having and establishing a strategic approach to improving our position. So in that regard, for instance, this is the case for University of Murcia. Our main goal is not to be or to become a fully online university, but we have improved a little bit during the pandemic in some of the different areas of online learning maturity. But we can see here that we are still not quite mature in some others. So, for instance, in our case, I wouldn't say that we are very well prepared or that we have no investments to be done. I think probably we still need to do something better. And in particular, it's important that the senior leadership of the institution work in preparing an online learning strategy. That's very, very important, because that avoids what is called usually in the States this things gone wild, which is that each of the different faculties start going online in a different way without comparable tools, etc. So it's like no organization into online education. So in that sense, that's very important. And in particular, what is very important when defining such strategy is to consider the different aspects related with online learning. Of course, we have to have a clear view on where we want to go. That's our strategic goals. But we need to match those strategic goals with our technical agility. I mean, with our ability for our tools to adapt to the requirements of future online. And we have to clearly see if we have enough funding and enough resources to create a competitive technology package that can help people. And then that's the third aspect, people agility. I mean, is our faculty prepared? Are we able to prepare them to these new models of education? That's going to be definitely one of the another possible limiting factor on our online learning ambition as an institution. And of course, we need to measure if we are really matching or achieving our goals, and if our offers actually are competitive to what a student may find in the market. And I mean, these terms are not quite used in universities, like market business proposition and things like that. But the reality is that many people think that we are now under disruption. And basically, one of the things that's going to happen is productification of online learning. So we have to think on products, on things that get better and better over time, and matches the what our users, basically students, expect. So we have to make ourselves the key questions. And it's important to find the right balance between providing a very good, solid online experience for all of our teachers in an easy way, so that they do not need to do a lot of effort. And this is what we call working on foundation. And probably 80% of our funding should be focused on this foundation, on our LMS, and creating easy but very good templates for our professors to move their courses online, etc. And at the same time, allowing those staff who wants to go further, who wants to innovate in their teaching and learning, to also be able to experiment and evolve. And the idea is basically creating this continuous cycle of increased improvement. So when we think about phase 3, the probably most referred word I've found in the literature is uncertainty. Nobody is clear on what's going to be the future, especially in the long term. And in this case, I mean, we were already thinking, at least the people who work on strategy, like in my case, on what is to pose or what our university wanted to be in 2030, for instance. And the possible scenarios depends very much on what's going to happen with the validity or importance of formal credentials versus micro credentials and informal ones, and also how technology, in particular artificial intelligence, is going to be disrupting more or less our institutions. And that creates like this quadrant in which you might find that it's better to be positioned, and you can then know exactly what to plan for. But the problem now is that we have faced a disruption within a disruption. I mean, COVID-19 has come over in the middle of this disruption. So what are those scenarios? It's not so clear anymore, because in particular, we need to guarantee that whatever investments we do for this new normal, like 2022, 2023, actually do pay off in our overall strategy towards 2030. So here comes another question for you, which is, what is your vision about how it's going to be this new normal compared with pre-COVID in terms of what's going to be or what's going to happen with online activities versus face-to-face in-class activities? And again, we will wait for 1 minute or so for you to answer. Okay, we have a lot of input at the moment, so I will wait just 30 more seconds for those of you who haven't answered yet. But at the moment, we have a very large participation in the poll. Okay, here we go. So at the moment, the winning option is those of you who think that online activities will grow and face-to-face classes will be reinvented for greater value. This at the moment has like 57% of the votes. And the second option, it's online learning activities will grow and face-to-face classes will reduce. The other two activities, like online activities exponentially growing and face-to-face classes almost disappearing, only has a 4% people thinking that's going to be the future scenario, and that both online learning and face-to-face classes will go back exactly to where it was in pre-COVID values, have a 14% of support. So I think that represents pretty much what is also the feeling, I think, in my university at the moment. I think there are still some people who think that things may probably go back to where it were, but most of us think that actually things has changed and they're not going to be back to where it was exactly, or teaching and learning, and things are going to change. And those are basically the two possible options people are thinking: increase online learning with reduction in face-to-face. And most people, I think, at the moment, also at my university, thinks that face-to-face classes is going to still be there and they are going to be reinvented. And this is probably the same opinion I personally have. I think that presentiality is a very interesting asset that many universities, at least face-to-face universities, have. And we shouldn't actually just get rid of that. That's an important aspect that can help improve our value proposition. But of course, presentiality has to provide something valuable. I mean, why do I make the effort to get up early and basically go there to the classroom if what you are giving me is basically something I can see on a video anytime, anywhere? So I expect something else. I think our students is gonna expect something else. So what I've seen, at least in our institute, in University of Murcia, is that teachers have done, I mean, faculty has done a very tremendous effort in using all the new tools and putting forward this hybrid model. And we've seen that 22% of our teaching staff is basically moved to fully online. The other 78 is basically using hybrid learning from the classroom. And we've seen that things are changing. If we compare what it could be from the middle of the graph to the left, which is basically previous year, fast response, with phase 2, which is from the middle of the graph to the right. We can see, for instance, that professors are adopting very good practices. They are moving online, but they have created online content, enriched content, interactive content. And this is something that was basically never used or rarely used by your teachers before. And now they had the options to go back to hybrid and forget about this additional effort, but they are doing it because they find it useful and relevant. And the same happens with continuous assessment. We have seen an increase in the way in which our students have been assessed. And we are using continuous assessment more than ever. And even with the exam tools, even though we are now doing our exams in a face-to-face manner, this year long, we have been having still a very huge use of this remote examination tool, but basically in order to do this formative assessment, I mean, continually giving feedback to the students on how they are progressing. And that's very important. These are like very good practices that our people are doing. So this is why I'm very convinced, at least that's my opinion, that we're not going to be back to the baseline after the new normal, but we're probably reinventing what's going to be our model, in the sense that we will move more activities to online, especially those that have more value when they are delivered online, like content, like mini videos, etc. But we will also reinvent, and this is the green line, the face-to-face class. And we will be aiming at much better experiences and taking face-to-face classes together with our students to improve their learning. So in that regard, how it's going to be, and this is the last part of the talk, how it's going to be online teaching and learning in the future. So basically, we can take some decisions ourselves, but we must accept that there are some important driving forces and global trends that's going to influence a lot of on higher education institutions, and probably we won't be able to make all the free or decide ourselves the model of the new normal. Probably that's going to be imposed by the reality. So it's clear that higher education was already being disrupted before, and the COVID-19 has basically accelerated quite a lot our requirement on dealing with those things that were already being pointed out by students, by faculty, and that the tools and technology can help a lot to improve the value proposition of universities. But there are things that are not going to change after the pandemic. For instance, there's going to be a very high impact of technology in the labor market, and that will basically increase the demands of reskilling and upskilling of professionals. In fact, some studies say that for 2030 and 2040, there will be more relearners and reskillers than first course students or students doing their first studies. And this is something congruent about in different studies. And we expect an exponential growth in demand. So if this demand in reskilling and upskilling is going to be tackled by universities, of course, we need to move online, because this kind of learners, of course, have very specific needs that can be basically matched in face-to-face learning. Again, the current model does not scale in terms of cost and quality. If the demand increases, what's going to happen is that our cost is also going to grow, and probably our quality is going to go down with the current model. So we're going to be forced to change our model. And changing our model, it's going to be basically trying to give answers to this unsatisfied demand. And that means basically converting our current model into a golden triangle in which we can scale, increase the number of students, because there's going to be huge demand, but not compromising cost and quality. And this can only be done with technology. And technology is going to be basically our main asset. And we will already seen important advances in technology in things like digital credentials, adaptive learning platforms, artificial intelligence, etc. That's going to be a changing asset in the future of education. And some institutions are already working on that. For instance, University of Central Florida already has made a very big effort in transitioning from analog to digital. And they've managed basically to triple the number of students and basically lowering the cost so that more students from minority groups are getting into university, and at the same time being able to maintain a very nice quality instruction, even though it's online. And in that sense, they managed to change in particular. It's been really very relevant of what they're doing, which is increasing these online and mixed models by 47%. And currently, 47% of their student credit hours are already designed in digital first. And key for that is basically this circle, this virtual circle I was mentioning before. The idea of having a center which is helping the whole institution in this transition. It's like the digital transformation of the learning, in which they develop our faculty, they help with the design of courses, they help with the production, and at the end, you manage to reinvent and recreate and continually improve the quality of your online learning. So this means that if universities have something to do, and universities have the power to embrace online learning. However, the future is not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because, of course, the trends are still continuing in the sense that we are in the middle of a disruption, and there's going to be important changes that we're going to have to face. And universities are not particularly good at changing fast. And in some situations, digital transformation in the higher institution, in the higher education at the moment, is the second sector in which most acceleration is being produced only after bank. So in that sense, we need to be realized that the future of this online learning is going to be, point number one, enabled by technology. Technology is going to be the only way we will have to be competitive and to provide quality learning and creating this golden triangle. And this is basically admitted, and this is basically the main conclusion of many reports on trends. And we see basically the same technologies like artificial intelligence, learning analytics, micro-credentials, open educational resources. So definitely technology is something we have to embrace if we want to be successful in online learning. The second aspect to consider is there's going to be an increased competition, because basically when you move online, students can study anywhere, any place. So competition is global, it's no longer local. So if your value proposition is not good enough, then you might suffer and not be competitive and successful in online learning. And of course, at the moment, there is this Saudi education sector in which we see many companies entering into this higher education, because they have seen clearly from my previous graph that there's a huge in that arena, then we will need to compete with these other new guys in the block. And of course, that means that things that at the moment we do not pay much attention so far, like marketing and data analytics, is going to be very, very relevant. For instance, Southern New Hampshire University, which is the second in the United States with more online students, invests yearly 139 million in marketing in order to be competitive with some of these other MOOC offers like Coursera, Udemy, etc. I don't know your institutions, but for sure in the University of Murcia, we cannot spend such amount of money for marketing, because basically we will have to stop even getting electricity. So in that sense, that's a huge change. You want to be competitive there, you will have to be prepared for what's coming. And this coming is also huge disruption, in the sense that this remembers me to the 21st century, when we have these companies in entertainment sector that they were living very happy, looking at Amazon, Netflix, YouTube, and things that they were not worried at all. I remember there was this guy from the music industry that said, MP3, who's gonna listen to that crap? The reality is that all those leader contenders has completely changed the way in which entertainment market has evolved. And we have seen basically the same behaviors now in academy. And we're looking at Khan Academy, Kaggle, EDX, and we think, well, these are not really substitutes of the real thing, of course. We cannot imagine our employers hiring someone who doesn't have one of our respective degrees. Things might happen, definitely, and disruption happens very fast. So factor number 3, student experience. We have seen with the pandemic, in the first 2 weeks, students were very happy because we were continuing our education very fast. For the next year, they wanted more, because that was just an emergency response. That's gonna be, I mean, student expectations can only grow. So
Pedro, yes. Excuse me, allow me, because we are running out of time.
Oh, sorry.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, because really all your ideas, but I would like to ask you to wrap up if we want to be able to answer some of the questions posed by the audience, in addition to the pollings you have conducted already. So if you could please wrap up.
Definitely, thank you very much for advising me. I completely forgot about time.
Yes, I was sending you messages.
So that's gonna be basically this idea of we are gonna be adaptive learning. People learn at different rates, and institutions need to be adaptive as well if we want to be competitive. And finally, there's going to be a huge demand for flexible pathways accredited by micro-credentials. just to mention that in Europe, we are in a very good position, and alliances like yours has a very good opportunity in using Europass and EPSI as a basic infrastructure to allow recognition between institutions. So basically, summing it up, we're basically in a point of extreme disruption, and we're also in a pivotal point for higher education. This decade is going to be like an inflection point for higher education, that it can create a very extreme gap between institutions that really approach online learning strategically and plan ahead, and those who don't. So it's important now, especially with assistance funds from the European Union, to make a very strategic investment of all those funds so that we can continue being competitive in the near future. And this is all from my side. Sorry for spending my time. And of course, I'm glad to receive any question from your side.
Thank you very much, Pedro. Really, thank you very much, because this was an exciting presentation. And from what you presented, I kept three numbers. But 4% believes that the physical courses are going to be extinguished, but 14% believe that we are going to return back to normal. And most of the people really believe that it's going to be a hybrid type of education where technology needs to assist. Thank you very much, really. There is a number of questions that from the audience, but I would like to give, and one of them can be answered. One of them is directed to you. It says, Agnieszka says, very inspiring speech. So many open lines are ahead of us. In general sense, in your opinion, what are the most important competencies a teacher must develop? Open-mindedness, technology skills, cultural sensitivity. This is a question that can be answered by Pedro, but by all the panelists of the plenary session, of course, as well. So we have 6 minutes to answer questions, including the break. So please.
Okay, I will be fast, just to leave some time for others in case they want to answer. So, of course, we have to be technologically enabled. That's clear, because technology is going to play an important role. But technology is not going to be the most important part. Most important part is about methodology and how to engage students and how to make the most of the teaching time.
Okay. Professor Boudouvis, would you like to add something to that, or Professor Mcharen?
No, I think that the essence of the theme was completely covered by Pedro. But there are some other associated questions, and I have provided some responses during the Pedro's talk. I don't know if you have any priority in presenting the questions, Katerina?
No, I'll just stick to the unanswered questions, because really we have run out of time, and in 5 minutes we have to move to the panel. So I'll go to the second question that remains unanswered. I think that it will be interesting to see what the long-term impact will be. How much will virtual exchange and remote work be used? Will blended learning not only be a remedy in times of social distancing, by a means for more flexible and better quality learning? How will the experience of the crisis shape joint research and enhance open access? Actually, it's a question with 3 legs, so I will repeat it. How much will virtual exchange and remote work be used? Will blended learning not only be a remedy in times of social distancing, but a means for more flexible and better quality learning? How will the experience of the crisis shape joint research and enhance open access?
May I comment on 2 and 3, just very briefly? Well, the answer is provided within the question. It will be a means for more flexible and better quality learning, that's for sure. And regarding number 3, the crisis effect on joint research and enhanced open access, certainly yes. I think we have already seen some very strong signals that this is the direction that we're moving.
Okay. I don't know if Pedro or Cristina would like to add something to this question.
From my side, I totally agree with Professor Andreas. And for the first question on how much will virtual exchanges and remote work be used, actually, that's a very tough question. I'm not sure I have an answer for that, but I think definitely my vision is that we are gonna try to make the best of presentiality at all times, and for everything else we can do successfully without physical presence, probably we will prefer the anytime, anywhere paradigm as we're seeing in things like Netflix and things like that.
Actually, there are two questions that are very interesting, and I believe that it's worth presenting them. Is it really possible to do any hands-on laboratory activities via the distance learning way? It's one question. And the second is, yes, technology is important, but how can distance learning be used efficiently in the case of artistic teaching, for example, in teaching dance in higher education? So anybody from the panelists that would like to answer to these questions? The one refers to laboratory activity, hands-on laboratory activities, and the second to artistic teaching, emphasis placing in teaching dance.
Virtual reality, augmented reality is the way to go. Of course, there are other prerequisites for that. Regarding the last question about dancing, I have seen many people
or will be done partly also on a digital basis, but not completely. I think I'm really convinced that we need both. We need the physical presence in the classroom and the physical interaction of the bodies or whatever. And we need the digital support and preparation. I think preparation of the physical encounter is a very important thing. And I experienced myself that online dancing course good recipe. And the mixture will be different in different disciplines and different lessons, types of lessons.
All this really, it is really exciting, and it's not only for us. I think it's for all the attendees that are approximately 300 from what our team tells me. But I really have to stop, and I strongly recommend and I strongly urge all the participants to put the questions that we do not have the time to be answered to the panel discussions they are going to participate. I would like to thank a lot Professor Karen, Professor Ruiz Martinez for this exciting keynote speech, and our host, our rector, Professor Andreas Boutoufis, and invite us all in the panel discussion starting as we speak. So let's continue. Thank you, Katarina, and thank you also, Pedro. This was a very strategic, very good talk, I think. I learned a lot. Thank you. All of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to you all. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. According to the schedule, we should start our panel number 2. So I would like to welcome everybody who's watching us and also our panelists. I see that we have more than 80 participants, which looks very nice. So we have now some 15 minutes where at the beginning our panelists, and I will introduce them in a moment, will share some opinions and thoughts on distance learning, because we have 2, let's say, predefined questions that I would like to ask them, and they will have some time to answer to this question. And after that, we will have time for the questions from the audience. So I encourage our participants who would like to ask some questions, or we may also select the questions already in our question and answer chat or list, to send us some questions so we can discuss up to those 50 minutes, which is our slot. So that was some organization, and now I would like to introduce our panelists. So I will start with Anna Rosengren, who's Associate Professor and Chairperson in Pedagogical Development Group from Jönköping University. So welcome, Anna. We have also Katrina Mielonen, who's a lecturer at the Department of Mechanical Engineering at Lappeenranta-Lahti University of Technology. Welcome, Katrina. And we have also expert from Leibniz University in Hannover, Cornelis Kater, who is the head of e-learning services, or e-learning service. So he has experience with distance learning and e-learning in general. And I would like also to welcome our students. So we have 3 students, Corina Modis and Milena Šipovac, both undergraduate students from Technische Universität Wien. And the 3rd student is Elias Vassos, undergraduate student from National Technical University of Athens. So also welcome to you. And so that was some introduction, and now we should go in the 2 rounds, and I have 2 questions prepared for you. So all of you have some 3 minutes to answering or providing some opinion on these questions. So the first question is, what are key opportunities or strengths or advantages that you were able to identify during the distance learning period? So from your point of view, from your experiment, and if I can ask Professor Anna Rosengren for his opinion as the first speaker, please.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, this was a very nice question to think about clearly, and especially with the background from our own university, Jönköping University, where we have studied digital education from the perspective of the pedagogical perspectives that need to be integrated into online education. And the means that we did that work was through collaboration and collegial learning. And I believe that one of the opportunities that we have all seen during the last year was collaboration. A great deal of collaboration taking place in very many instances. We have seen collaboration among teachers, with students, across institutions and across universities. And I think that has been a great development. And I think that is something that we can really take into consideration for the future. And secondly, innovation, I believe, is a very important factor. So we have seen universities that have spoken about how their 5-year digitalization plans became realized in 5 weeks, more or less. And I think that that's just one example of the great leaps of innovation that have taken place during the last 1.5 years or so. And so I believe that joining these two, collaboration and innovation, is really what is at the heart for the universities at the time. We have this tremendous opportunity to make continuous innovation into the DNA of our ways of working. And I believe that the way to get there is through collaboration with students, with research, with our external partners, and through collegial learning.
Okay, thank you, Anna. So if I can conclude it, it means that this period forced you and your colleagues to do more collaboration and speed up the innovation that otherwise would be slower or not so intensive.
Yes, you could say that. I saw this little picture of the coronavirus being the new CIO with the digital transformation expertise, and this was a huge force, and we couldn't stop it. So we had to do whatever we could, and I think that this very important parameter of collaboration was how we made it happen. I think is very, very strong. And I think that we may also remind ourselves that collaboration is one of the learning, one of the ways of learning that we often encourage our students to take in courses. So, I mean, it is an established way of learning. So we kind of applied what we proposed to our students to ourselves. And I think that is the way forward.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing your experience with this period. And let's move to another panelist. And Katrina, maybe, can you take your turn?
So hello, everyone. I talked with a few of our teachers and I collected a short list what their opinions was and also my own opinion. First, what teachers thought that is good is that the new digital tools came out quite fast, and we noticed that even, or if teachers felt that they might at first be difficult to use, we're still working with the students who are native to use these tools, and these tools are familiar with them. Then second point that was strongly, or was a really good opinion, is that students could study with their own schedules. They can get additional support from the teachers. Teachers might make some teams calls to them that is not often made in a traditional classroom teaching. Then what the teachers was happy that finally we are out of paper, so all the documents are in digital form, and therefore it's easy to organize and easy to monitor teachers, or teacher can monitor how students progress during their studies. Then time and place, independent exams. Exams can be done electronically in electronic exam rooms or in Moodle, or sometimes exam can be a discussion between student and teacher. So that was my short list.
Okay, thank you very much, Katrina. We will discuss, I believe, some specific points from your experience during the following discussion. But what was interesting to me is that you talk about electronic or digitalized exams, because, you know, and probably it's similar in other universities, we have some exam period, and doing those exams and all the paperwork is really something that I don't want to repeat every year, but I have to do. So yeah, that's nice if it is possible to do it and convert it to digitalized exams that may be easier to process and handle for both sides. So that's very nice.
Yes, and this continuous evaluation is now more than before when we teach in traditional way.
So it's better to continuously evaluate students than to let it to the final exam.
Yeah, it's easier to follow them how they progress.
Okay.
Because digital tools helps teachers to do that.
That's nice. Thank you very much.
Thank
you. Okay. And the next one, I guess it's Cornelis. Please, can you tell us something from the perspective of the head of e-learning services?
Yes, my point of view is an infrastructure point of view. I'm not so much a teacher or in teaching. My job is to let all the systems run smoothly, which is quite, it's not easy. For me, it's cooperation too, a very important opportunity to strengthen our systems to have way more tools for this area. We've got a big project aligned. It will start in August to incorporate some cooperation tools directly into our learning management systems, which would be very nice. So we worked it in a very short period of time to get this stuff out of our house. I think it's interesting to keep this online format and tools for the cooperation, communication, and cooperation aspects online, so the students will be more flexible, especially for student groups where they are working together. What also is interesting is the opportunity to build innovations directly into our software, because we are very open source driven university. We built our software since 20 years for ourselves. Finally, we got an understanding that's important to build your tools for yourself and to integrate the tools for yourself in one or two main platforms, which make it easy to support as well as presence teaching, hybrid teaching, and online teaching, and we are prepared for all of that. So I like to build more interesting tools like a messenger, which is specially made for the purpose of universities, not WhatsApp, but a tool which can be used for teaching as well. It's integrated and connected to stuff in our learning management system. That's some opportunities I'm looking forward to build that self. The main problem is we don't have enough experts and people to build all this stuff in just 1 year, but we have the resources. It's very crazy times, and I'm looking forward to the next 12 to 18 months to get some stuff in the hands of our students.
Okay, thank you very much. So what I understood is that you spent most of the time improving software,
yes.
Improving technology. So
yeah.
We can maybe see some open source platform that integrates all of these things you mentioned in the future?
The platforms already exist. It's mainly Studi, a German one, and Ilias. But I like to talk about to share the platforms or the connections between them in this network we are building just now. I think it could be very interesting not to build one platform for everything, but use best aspects of our platforms and put them together with smart interfaces. And I always wanted to put the users to another platform, not the content, because that's the best way to consume it in the way it was designed. So I think there's a lot to do in regard to interface and to interchange our views and our strength, building platforms, hosting platforms, and so on.
Okay. Thank you very much. And I was told that either Milena or Corina will answer to this first question. So it's up to you who want to start with this question, and the other will have opportunity to answer the question number 2. So please go ahead.
Yeah, I think I will answer this question.
Okay, I just remind that our question is, what are key opportunities that you observed or you experienced in this distance learning period?
For me, as a student, I think a big advantage was that lectures were recorded, because I think that provides a lot of flexibility. For example, I think that it is very useful for exam preparation that I can rewatch lectures. And also, if I don't understand an explanation, a specific explanation at first, I can watch it twice or even a third time. So I think that was very useful for me for exam preparation. Also, for me as a working student, as I'm always, I'm also working at the Technische University of Vienna, I think that this flexibility that recordings provide is very nice, because if I have much work to do, or if I have to prepare for another exam, and I think I have to use the time now for this specific exam, I know that I don't miss out any important explanations, because I know that I can rewatch the lecture. And yeah, I think this is really a big advantage for me as a student. And also, I think that it was very nice that I could manage my own time. So if I thought that I wasn't concentrated enough to follow, I know I could pause the lecture and come back if I don't know, drank some coffee. And yeah, I knew I could rewatch it and manage my own time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think that your experience or your opinion correlates with some other or opinions with other students that I was able to talk with. I'm a little bit surprised that what as a student you see as the most benefit is that you can replay the lectures, because I thought that you would like to see some fancy, I don't know, explanations and something very advantage in terms of delivery, the information, the knowledge, some gamifications or something like this. So, but I must say that that's good for teachers, because we don't need to spend a lot of time doing all these things, and we just need to do some good lecture that you can replay and watch it again. I definitely agree with the opinion that distance learning provides opportunity for the flexibility, and I see it on the same way. So the flexibility is something that I also appreciate as a teacher. So that's nice that we both share this. Okay, in order to continue, I would like also to ask the same question to Elias. So Elias, can you also tell us what do you think about this?
Yes, I completely agree with the state of lectures that are recorded and rewatchable. And I would also like to add that another very important point is the elimination of commuting, or so you could gain more sleep or more time to prepare for a lecture or a lesson, which is important. Also, it eliminates the anxiety of finding a good seat in an auditorium, close to the board, in a quiet spot. In an online lecture, you can, every seat is the same. There are no distractions from other students, no noise. You can see very clearly the board. You can hear the professor very clearly. And it's also very important that it allows people from other cities, or in a broader sense, any country or any place in the world, to attend a lecture without having to live alone, pay rent, for example, or without having to work in the same time as they study in order to support themselves financially. And another aspect of a lecture which could be improved would be some computer simulations of phenomena that have been studied in, for example, fluid mechanics or heat transfer phenomena. And it's easier to see something and visualize it better so you can understand it better. And it helps a lot the professor to explain something, because you can only explain it using words up to a point. From there on, you need an image, or in our case, a computer simulation. And also, I'd like to point out that in case you like to take a class from another semester, and it happens to coincide with one of your own in the timetable, through distance learning and recorded lectures, at least one of the two, you can be practically at the same two places at the same time, which is very important. In other, without electronic lectures, you couldn't attend both. You had to compromise, join half the time in one, half the time the other. So I think that's also a very good point.
Okay, thank you. So I understand that because of distance learning, you are able to do more things than before.
Basically, it gives you more opportunities, yes, more choice.
Okay, so thank you for the first round. I guess that we immediately, or I suggest to go immediately to the second round, so all of you can have possibility to also discuss what are the challenges or risk or threats that you saw during this distance learning period. So in the first questions, you talked about positive aspects, and now let's move to negative aspects, or it must not be actually negative, but what do you think that there are possible risks that if we stay longer in this distance learning period, that we may have some issues in the future? So not to do any mess in our round, I would again start with Anna. So Anna, please.
Yes. Well, I think that the challenges can actually be seen as quite related to the opportunities. So if we were to assume that bringing continuous innovation into the DNA of universities is something that we have the possibility to do to a greater extent than before. And if we could do that through collaboration, then of course that will demand a certain type of decision on the way you want to go, because you can't go in all directions at the same time. So that is going to be a challenge. And secondly, I also think about the social dimension for students and other lifelong participants and staff. The social dimension. It has been quite clear that there is a social dimension in the physical university, in the campus education, and that has been less obvious in the digital setting. And I believe that we have to make sure that we have a digital community of belonging in this new format as well. And also social aspects, they come into play for faculty, for staff, so that we don't, because we have been under stress, of course. There has been a lot of change. So that is also something that we need to take into consideration to make sure that we don't put too much stress on neither students nor staff.
Okay, thank you for your point. Regarding the social dimension, I saw that you are also from the School of Engineering, so maybe, and to explain this, I'm from the School of Computer Science. So in our case, not being present and not to meet each other is, at least it seems to be not so crucial for our students, and it can be seen that it's advantage for them that they don't need to meet each other. But it was partially a joke that social dimension is the advantage, not the risk, because in general, that's definitely the risk. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but the social aspect can be handled in the digital format. We just need to make sure that we do that. So it's not that it's dependent on the physical format, but we just have to make sure that we take it into consideration and that we handle it in a good way.
Yes, definitely. That's very important. Thank you. And may I ask Katrina for her opinion?
Okay. As Anna just said, I would also say that that these challenges, they are related to opportunities. First, I told you that interaction with the teacher and student is good, but if there are only these mass meetings arranged online, this interaction might be really poor, and teachers, they don't know if there are students listening or not. It is difficult for teachers to know that. Then online teaching, if there are some assignments, there might be shy students who don't like to present their assignments online to everyone else, and teachers needs to, or teachers might don't know what to do in these kind of cases, because they have different pedagogical skills, and they don't necessarily understand these kind of situations. Then these digital tools or softwares, they might cause some problems. There might be some updates in them during the teaching, or something don't work. They cannot make records or something like that. Then this students' information security or recognition, it might also cause some problems, and in exams some additional work is required to prevent and also to monitor possible tries to cheat in these exams. And finally, there is a lack of lab works. So because of lockdowns, the campus was closed and students couldn't go there, so they had no chance to do lab works. So that is also some kind of risk in the future if they cannot participate in lab works.
Okay, thank you. So it seems that Katrina very nicely identify what is missing in distance learning, and if we combine it with the positive aspects, we maybe find a hybrid way how to efficiently deliver the knowledge and to provide the education. So thank you again. And now, again, our expert, Cornelis, please, what is the problem when implementing learning?
The challenges. Sorry, the challenge and risks for me, it's that structure, or there's not a quite good understanding that we have to change as an organization as a whole. It always, it still feels like the online services, especially teaching services we do, and something which is nice to have, an appendix, something which will go away, but it isn't the way. I'm at my, I think, 16th year at this university, doing more or less the same stuff, fighting for resources, explaining why this is important and so on, as much as important as computer centers and libraries. So we have to always fight to get this understanding. We have to find our fundings sometimes for ourselves. We have got a lot of projects where there should be basic structures which are not funded by projects, and the teachers want more. I would love to give everyone an instructional designer with some time to improve the teaching, to be there when they are doing the transfer, but we can only support a small fraction of the teachers, and mostly which are able to find funding for themselves via projects and other stuff, which is very sad. I would like to be there for everyone, and that is quite possible right now. And there's not a small hope, but not one that will change in the next 2 or 3 years as a whole. I hope the organization will understand we have to be integrated and funded like like buildings and every stuff which is there since a lot of years. That's very important to be just accepted as a main fundament for good teaching at the universities.
Okay, thank you. And do you think that this situation, I mean, the last year, make your position better, or how do you evaluate it, this period?
I'm a bit skeptic, but maybe it's the point of view from our state, Germany, which did some cost-cutting, still cost-cutting, and there are some funding which are only for the next year secured. We aren't sure what will happen in 2023 right now. So it's not sustainable right now. We are hoping, but it's in progress.
Okay, thank you. We will see.
Yeah.
And now the students' perspective. So, what did you dislike, or what do you think it's the problem for distance learning, or what's your opinion? Probably Milena. Yeah, it's her turn.
Thank you. I would like to address a few points. I think the first point is something that all of us experienced, students and teachers as well, and this is the so-called Zoom fatigue. It's when you spend a few hours sitting in front of your computer and you're just so tired, and it's very hard to concentrate sometimes. So I think this is something that should be taken into account when organizing lectures, and maybe not scheduling a 2-hour lecture without breaks and things like that. That is not usually taken into account. That happens to everyone. A second thing is something that I personally had a few issues with, and some of my colleagues, and this is this overload of tools from different teachers. Some of them are using Zoom, and someone is using the big blue button, and then there's Teams, and then there's the chat function, and sometimes you just get overwhelmed from different softwares and don't really know. I think there should be some point where we, or at least in a certain university, that there is not too much software where everyone can choose what they want. And I think there is also this topic of flexibility, and flexibility is good. And we're all learning how to be more flexible since the last year. But sometimes I feel as a student that there is too much flexibility expected from us. And we also expect way too much flexibility from our teachers. And sometimes it just gets a little bit difficult because deadlines are getting changed a lot of times, and yeah, that's also one of the issues. And there's this dependency on teachers' relationship with email and a certain communication channel. There are a lot of professors and lecturers that answer right away or in some normal time, and we're very grateful for that. But there's also a lot of people that just ignore our emails. And this could be solved earlier with, okay, those are the office hours, and I'm just going to knock to the office door of my professor and ask a question if I don't get an answer to my email. But this is not an option anymore. So this is also something that could be difficult. And the last point that I also would like to address briefly is I started master last semester, and I didn't meet a lot of people, and there were some moments where I felt quite isolated, because you see the names of people and you know who they are, but you never actually met them. So I think it could be an issue, and I think it is an issue for students that are at the beginning of their studies and for the first time at the university, that the social component needs to be addressed from the students and from the teaching staff as well. And yeah, so that was from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your opinion, for your valuable thoughts. So what I understand is that the problem is mainly in the organization, so not in delivery of knowledge, but how to organize it, how to simplify it, how to make it more, let's say, in a way that it can be survived with good mental health. And also the isolation, yeah, definitely that's the problem. So I guess that's the problem that maybe all of us would mention. Okay, and Elias made a statement that it is advantage to have several sessions or to jump from one session to another session. So what was your thinking about the disadvantages, Elias, please?
Yes, while it is advantageous to have the option, I agree with Milena on the topic of Zoom fatigue. It's impossible to watch more than 2 or 3 lectures a day with keeping concentrated. And I noticed the tendency for the lecture to become more stale, more monotonous, very little input from students. I don't know if it was a lack of participation because they were doing something else or because they just didn't want to. But that makes the lectures more tiring for somebody to watch a lot of them consecutively. Also, when you're sitting on a PC alone in your room, it's easier to distract yourself with something else. You're on your desk, another tab on the computer, somebody texted you. It's easier to skip from the lecture to that. And additionally, when there is a little input from you in the lecture and you can distract yourself, there is a gap that forms between the lecture and you. You know, it widens the more time progresses. And also, as a student of chemical engineering, my lab exercises, which are very important for me at least, they have become simulations and projections or stories. For example, somebody describes it, and I think it's depriving valuable experience, valuable hands-on experience on how to conduct yourself in a lab and how to make measurements, what's the error there, how this is called, you know, and you may end up in a laboratory in the future and not know, for example, the names of a few glassware. And also, what I noticed was that due to the lack of student input, very few questions, very few comments, the pace of learning was faster because no one was there to stop the professor to ask a question, and they kept going, which is natural. But for me, this made the lectures much harder to concentrate because if you missed, for example, 3 minutes, you missed something important. Maybe you couldn't follow 100% for the rest of the time. And it's a point that I'd like to make. Also, another but very local problem was that it depends on electricity, and if there's a power outage, for example, locally, few students might not be able to attend a lecture. But that's minimal. It's not very important. No.
Okay, thank you. So I saw that you are from School of Chemical Engineering, yeah? So some practical laboratories are very important for your study, is it true?
Yes, it's...
Have you been able to attend some during this period, or have you been able to do some experiments by your own?
Well, it's very difficult to do experiments at home because some of the reagents are maybe even illegal to acquire at home. I don't know. I haven't searched that much, but no. Some labs were not able to be redone from physical experience. So some of them stayed at the screen and not in my hands.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. Okay, So thank you all for answering these two questions. And I now show, because there was some poll during your presentations, and I would like to show the results, and we may discuss about these results and then do some question and answer section. So probably you see it. I apologize that it's in this way. So the poll number 4 was the challenges for teachers. And as you can see, the answers or there are 2 or 3 answers that are almost, because the question was to select 3 topmost issues that you can see in this. So the most mentioned one was keeping students interested in the course content, and it's aligned with also your opinions, so that keeping the students paying the attention is very important, but using the distance learning is very problematic. And the number 2 is hands-on experience, and definitely if we don't have any labs and other way how to do some practical experience, then it's very, very problematic. Maybe do you have some comments? Do you see something interesting in these answers? It seems not, so we can look at the other one, and that was challenges for students. And as a biggest challenge, and you can see that it won with almost 89%, was that for students it's very difficult to stay focused and motivated to attend the class or to listen to the entire class. And again, it's what we heard during your presentation. So it seems that this is something which is a problem in general, not only yours as selected students from the group of students. And some other are at the same percentage. So setting a schedule to make the assignments on time and so on, let's say less problematic, like in comparison to these motivation and keeping focused on the classes and be awake during all these classes. So that was our poll. And now, because we should end in 5, maybe 10 minutes, because we started a little bit late, we can select some questions that we received from our audience. So when I find my Zoom window, I will, okay. I need to find, yeah, question and answers. So what was, or if I try to ask a little bit more general, because we said that there are some advantages and there are some disadvantages of distance learning. So maybe it's kind of provocative question. Can you imagine that you will sometime in future deliver your entire study program just online, just in distance form, without even seeing your students? Or do you think that it's not possible? Because what we saw also in the presentation, in the keynote speak, or by keynote speaker, we saw that especially in the United States, where of course the education is paid, there are some, let's say, opinions that doing it completely distance may be better because you can reduce the price and the result will be almost the same. But for the students, it will be better because they don't have to pay too much money. So do you think that it's even possible to do it in this way?
can I answer?
Yeah, of course, please.
Okay, so in our University Lappeenranta-Lahti University of Technology, we actually have a master's program fully online. We started 2015, our first fully online program, and now in our school, if I now remember correct number, we have 7 different programs from mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and energy technology fields that our student can take them, so that they take only some laboratory courses, so that they visit at campus like 1 or 2 weeks, but rest of the courses can be totally be online. So what we have.
So you don't have any problem delivering these courses because you have some experience that it's possible, it can work. Maybe I have a follow-up question. Do you think that, let's say, the students or maybe labor market or possible employers of the students consider this degree in the same way as a, let's say, traditional earned degree? I guess that anyone can answer. What do you think? If you just take just the online degree, so you never met the university, you never met your teacher, you just get the certificate that you complete your university in online mode. Do you think that, or are you okay with this if I ask the students, or do you think that someone who, let's say, attend some university of big name has better position when asked or when going to the interview for the job?
Maybe I can try and make a comment here. Yes, also at JU we have quite some experience with online programs, and this is not unique for JU in any respect. There are several universities that have that are offering online programs. But of course, what is needed is to make sure that the pedagogy allows for continuing following the education with engagement. That is kind of the key issue, I believe, in a sense. And would those kinds of programs be seen as inferior to other programs? I don't think so. I think there's a huge potential in the digital setting. I'm not trying to say that there are no problems with the digital setting. There are, of course, but there's also a fantastic dimension that has many benefits. There's a democratic dimension. There's a diversity dimension. You can also make the world quite small. You can have guest speakers from the other side of the world. You can have authentic examples. This was listed here, but you can have examples from partners, external partners, for instance, in your course. So there is also a huge potential. So I think that we should not just look upon digital as something that does not really manage to be the same as the physical. I think we should think in other ways. We should think in terms of what can the benefits be, and they can be quite substantial, I believe. We haven't tapped into all of them at all yet, but I think that we will see that there are quite some benefits to be found in the digital setting.
Okay, great. maybe one last question. What about students? Would you like to study entirely as a distance learning, in a distance learning mode, or it's better for you to attend the university if you can? Or what would be the difference for you in this?
Can I answer?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. I think the best solution would be some type of hybrid education, because that allows us flexibility. But I think especially for students that need more practical experience, need to work at labs, of course, it's not going to be the same if you have a degree from an online university and have never been in a lab, compared to someone who actually did do some work. So I think there are studies that are good for this, for this type of hybrid or even distance learning thing, but I don't think it's good for every type of studies.
Okay, thank you. I apologize, we have to finish our panel because according to the schedule, there's some follow-up program. So I would like to thank you all our panelists and also all attendees of this panel, because we had more than 80 participants, so that's great. So I believe that it was interesting for you. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, answering to our questions. And now there should be some short break. After that, there's some summary session, so see you there. Thank you.
centralized systems. We have been building our pedagogical kind of like
Can I kindly request all panelists from panel 2 to transfer to webinar 1 to the plenary, please? All panelists, thank you.
Okay.
May I kindly request all panelists to transfer to webinar 1, please, to the plenary. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I think let's wait for 1 minute for all the panelists to return. Hello. Still there is an echo. Allow me to get in to check out and check in, although now I think it's okay. Okay, thank you very much. I think we have reached the final session of this distant learning workshop. In all the panels, they were extremely, how can I say, constructive, with a great interaction of the audience. What I would like to say and to update you, if we would like to describe this workshop in numbers, we had approximately 300 attendees who attended the workshop in its whole duration. 140 participants participated in the different pollings that appeared at different stages of this workshop, and we had 58 questions posed by the attendees of the audience. So these KPIs indicate that one of the objectives of this distance learning workshop to have all the attendees interact in a way it was achieved. At that section, I would like to invite the moderators of the 3 different panels to present to us the key points discussed and summarized in every and each of the 3 panels. I would like to start with Professor Julia Gillen from the Leibniz University of Hannover, who was the moderator of panel number 1. Julia, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Katerina. We had a very, very constructive and very, very good session. And we had some aspects we came again over and over. But first, I want to give you a short conclusion. One of the good effect we have is the internationalization of teaching. So it's very easy to engage lecturers from abroad and to bring guest lecturers in our universities, even if they are not in our countries and our cities. So we have a very good opportunity to collaborate with partner universities all over the world and in Europe. So that was one of the points we heard. One of the pros was also that we have to have the opportunity, or we use the opportunity to record the lectures for our students, and to record the lectures even for other lecturers, and to collaborate lecture by lecture together. So that was one of the pros. And one of the challenges we discussed in sometimes is to have the exams and to the assessments in the online modus. We don't have the best ways already. So perhaps we have to look for more oral exams, more project orientated exams, and to come to continual assessment, and not to have one summary assessment. So and the students they said very clear that the flexibility in time and place was one of the best effects of the remote modus, but one of the biggest challenge was the lack of interaction, and even the social interaction they didn't had in the remote modus. So in summary, you can say that the new discourse on teaching and studying we have in the universities for a long time give us a great opportunity for improvement of teaching and student experience. And that was something we saw in all of the universities who take part in the discussion. Okay, so I stop here, and perhaps the others will continue.
Thank you very much, Julia. Thank you very much indeed. I would like now to invite Professor Andre Risavi from the Brno University to summarize the discussions held in panel number 2. Andre, the screen is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will also use my screen. I put there some points, some significant points that outcomes from our discussion. So the first is about the opportunities, and the opinion of the speakers were that it definitely boosts some collaboration and also the speed of innovations. So a lot of things that weren't taken, waited for some impulse to deal with were now possible and even required. So the collaboration, the intensive collaboration between the institutions, and also boosting some kind of innovations in terms of distance learning, and also using more online platforms for communicating, doing online meetings, etc., was something that this distance learning period brings us advantage. Also, especially teachers expressed that they were forced to familiarize themselves to new tools, which may prove them useful. So they started to use different tools available on the market and realized that they can also boost some productivity. And the necessary digitalization removed some paperwork. So not everything had to be printed on the paper, and it was appeared in this distance learning period where it was not possible to print the paper, sign it, and so on. Also, more activities that were traditionally did in person were now as online activities, especially exams. So exams were traditionally considered as a thing that you need to come to the university, you are controlled by some supervisor, and you need to do exam in person. Now it was possible to do online exams, of course, in a different shape. There were also some demand for new features of distance learning tools because more people start using them. And I guess that what was the most considered or most discussed point or opinion, that it increased flexibility, because now you don't need to, or in this period, you don't have to move physically to some other location, which also takes some time. So you are more flexible. If you have online lectures, you can watch them from your home or even when you travel. So the flexibility was something that was very appreciated during this period. And with the flexibility, there was also opinion that it is possible to do more work and also to even take more classes than before, which is true, but as you will see on the next slide, this flexibility and doing more has also some drawbacks. And finally, what was very appreciated by students especially was that availability of recorded lectures. So I thought that students would appreciate some maybe other things, like some more interesting and more advanced tool for delivering the content, but it appears that have access to recorded lecture to be able to replay it again in order to understand more the specific things in this lecture is something that is very appreciated by students. So that was some advantages, and this is the list of the possible risks and challenges. So definitely the social dimension, including the feeling of isolation, is the biggest problem, not only for the students, but of course for the entire society. Also, there was some opinion that even there's some innovation, so something had to be done and move and innovate, then sometimes you may feel that you lose control over this innovation and over the evolution of the environment, because you cannot see the environment, you cannot touch, you cannot be part of this environment because it's kind of virtual environment. And sometimes you may feel that this virtual environment is somehow moving from you away, and you are losing the control. Also, it includes that the entire system and entire education and distance learning at this time was less structured, and it was kind of difficult to orient. There were complications in interaction between teacher and student. Some teachers may lack necessary pedagogical skills in order to deliver the lectures online. And there may, of course, be some technological problems. On the other side, teachers may have problem with monitoring student progress to prepare some suitable tests in order to evaluate them and the things related to the student's assessment. And also the biggest problem that both teachers and students agree on was the lack of hands-on exercises or hands-on labs. So for some areas of education, or for most of them, it is necessary to also have some practical experience in a labs. So without the labs, the education was quite difficult. And students also complained that there are a lot of tools that they had to use because it usually depends on the choice of the teacher. So some of them use like Microsoft Teams, Google, or some other tools. So if you as a student need to learn all of these tools, sometimes it may be quite difficult. And also sitting and doing all lectures online are quite complicated for students to stay focused. And as I said, the one advantage of this distance learning period was increased flexibility. It is at the same time as the disadvantage or some drawback of this, because if you have too much flexibility, it may be difficult to, let's say, set deadlines or to organize your time in order to complete all things you want to do. So the flexibility is in both categories. So this is what I recorded from the discussion, and I would pass my screen to some other moderator.
Thank you very much, Andre, for this very structured summary and wrap up that really helps us to identify all the key points discussed by both academics and students. And I would like now to invite the moderator of the third panel, Dr. Gegerli Rakoczy from the Technical University of Vienna, to present to all of us the key points discussed in panel number 3. Gegerli, the screen is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before I start with summarizing up, just one note, Jenny, she will talk after me. She will focus on the students group. She was also in the third panel, and we have had a short Zoom session in between to, not to talk the same, that we split up our summaries. So let's start with the teachers or administrative staff points. So I would like to start with the opportunities, strengths, and the positive ones. So basically, if you have, for example, large number of students, the fast response that you get as a teacher, if you apply it correctly, this is really, really good. You have real-time response, a lot of students, whether via polls or the chat comments. If you activate the students properly, you can get really fast, really good feedback. Also, the access, for example, for students, for guests is easier. So, for example, getting students from other countries included in your courses, for example, is much better. So mobility advantages are there as well. Also, accessibility is one. If you are, for example, it's not easy for you to travel, then here again you have a large benefit. And also you can take more classes, because changing between classes, as you don't need to walk between, for example, lecture halls, you can just click 3 times and you have a new Zoom session with a different course. So it's also a benefit. And one of the panelists said that it's really interesting outcome that, for example, there are some professors who are now, after this transition, are less afraid of technology, and now the digitalization boost is also better, so they won't go back, and we'll probably have a blended scenario where both worlds, the real world and the virtual world, benefit from each other. Yeah, and basically now I would like to switch to the difficulties, the challenges that we have discussed. It was an intense discussion with a lot of questions, and thank you very much for all the people and panelists and attendees. It was really, really good. The digital gap, of course, is one key issue. It was a key issue and is still remaining one. So those having less competencies in handling e-learning tools and digital tools, yeah, and it's more clearly now. It's simply one big point here. Also, basically, those who are maybe having special needs or are low income or have to deal with, for example, less infrastructure in terms of bandwidth or less room, less physical possibilities, then the new world is completely, the new normal is completely difficult. Also, keep up with work-life balance. If your office is your living room as well, I think I see a lot of head nodding. Yeah, it is a difficult thing. So sometimes the changing of rooms going to the university is really relieving. And one point that was a huge issue at our university as well, the examination in terms of, cheating, privacy, security aspects. It's huge, and it was really good to hear that also other universities have struggled a little bit, but found some solutions that might work. Maybe we have to develop a little bit new approaches, but this is really one that it's not solved 100%. We have to work on that. And as others summarized before, the face-to-face collaboration and communication is really good. And in lots of teaching scenarios, it's still the best. In Zoom, speaking parallelly, simultaneously is not possible, and in other settings, it is possible. And this was one point. And the last thing with which I want to close is we are not allowed to forget that 1 hour online teaching for students and also for teachers is really demanding, and sometimes more demanding than in a classroom or in a physical setting. Yes, that was from my part, and then give back to you, Katrina.
Thank you very, very much, Gregory. And we would like to invite now Jenny from the University .
Discussions that we have had to start with what's been good, what's the benefits. It's one of them is definitely the accessibility of all the different documents, and as we said before, the recorded lectures, they are of great value for the students, and in that sense you have been a little bit forced to use more of the digital library, which then you realize how much bigger it actually is and how much more material that is accessible. We were also talking a little bit about the question, why are we studying? And to always bring that question back to ourselves. Back to ourselves when we are in the school. And a little bit of a conclusion of that is what we hope is that become a better person, and to actually use what we're learning to create a better world, and to not forget about that when we are in this digital setting. Now you're making some sound. I'm sorry, Katarina. Thank you. No problem. And then, of course, we have the digital tools that can be used both on a campus and when you're in the digital learning setting, where you can do more of the course evaluations ongoingly. You can just pop up these polls and get the feedback more frequently. It doesn't have to be a hard way, and you can actually use the feedback within the course ongoingly. Then when we come to the more challenges, of course, all these social parts and informal conversations are very important for the students, and both student to student and student to teacher. Those kind of conversation has unfortunately disappeared, and is very valuable for the learning experience, for the discussions after the class when you're meeting up and just working on your arguments for your sake, or working on your learnings by listening to others. So that is something that definitely is lacking when we are in these settings, and you have the facial expressions and the sound and the video does affect it a lot. So those are some great challenges to work with. And then we also come in with the aspect of your financial situation, if you actually can afford to buy the greatest computer, to actually have the right tools for it. And that brings us into the work environment in general. You said when when your living room is your office, well, for most students, it's your bedroom and it's your bed. And that work environment is definitely not to benefit the studies for the students. And that is something that really needs to be considered when we are locking down the campuses and when we are not even able to do the studies in a proper seating. And then you always also have the student accommodations. Maybe you're sharing your room with others, or you're sharing your apartment with others. You have your kids if you're a parent. Those settings are extremely hard, and it's also time consuming to work with these work-life balance. And then it's also time management within that to these balls, or how to say. And it's also something that definitely affects the students, is that once you get inactive, when you're not active within your learning, it's harder to actually interact more. And that we have heard from teachers that they are having a struggle to make the students active. Well, once you get more inactive, it is harder to actually get there again. And we also wanted to lift the environmental aspect of this, both on the tools that we're using, but then also to wrap this up with the opportunities that we as universities and we as collaboration, universities with collaboration, that we can actually make a great impact. We can push both towards companies and towards our government to actually make a greater impact on the positive sides of the environmental. So that's something that also comes with this, and especially when we're collaborating like this. I hope that I got our different aspects of this. So I will leave it back to you, Katarina.
Jenny, thank you very, very much, because really all the issues you summarized were issues discussed in all the panels, more or less. And one of the issues all of you, the students, panelists, raised was the lack of boundaries between private and work, and which I thought it was a problem that we professionals and teachers have, because really there is no boundary any longer. And it seems that applies to the students as well. And I found this exceptionally interesting. Thank you very much, Jenny, really, for all this. And I would like to check, because we have a number of polls that went on. Most possibly you've noticed it during the whole duration of the workshop. Questions were popping up and down. As I said, more than 150 people provided their views in these pollings. So I would like to ask my colleagues here at NTUA if we are ready to present the summary of these polls, because then we would like to invite Professor Monika Bakosova to summarize the next steps. But before Monika starts, thank you very much, Jenny, I would like to ask whether we are going to present the polling's results or we can just upload it into the website. Give me 1 second to see if we're going to have any results. Thank you very much. And something else I'd like to remind to everybody is attendees that are interested in acquiring a certificate of attendance, please state so at the website. So I don't see. Let me wait. Let's give another second to a technical. Okay, I see that there is a delay, so I would like to invite Professor Monica Bakosova from the Technological University of Bratislava to give us her views and regarding the next steps regarding distance learning. And Monica, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katerina, and thank you also for the opportunity to formulate next steps. I will try to share my screen. I hope can you see my screen, please?
Yes, Monica, yes. We can see very well.
I tried to formulate the next steps in distance learning based on the keynote lecture and also the discussion in the panel 1. So I think that the main message of this workshop on distance learning that it is necessary to develop and to use distance learning also in the future. And it is necessary also to reinvent face-to-face learning to greater value. And now to individual steps. The first step for the future is to create strategy and strategic plan for distance learning at the universities, because during the pandemic situation, we started distance learning between universities, maybe in our alliance of universities, then it is also necessary to create effective online or blended courses, again, at individual universities, in collaboration with universities, because we can share our knowledge and experiences, and also for collaboration between universities, because we can share the prepared online courses. And the effective online and blended courses are and will be also very important for a realization of mobilities. So to the next steps, we can add also creating attractive videos for synchronous or asynchronous teaching. And what is important for the future, to bring in distance learning experts and guest speakers from not only academia and other universities, but also from science and industry. And it is the good feature of distance learning that it is very simple to bring these experts into teaching and learning. Then the other step is to choose proper tools for developing practical skills. So it is recommended to create more remote laboratories, to use virtual reality, Internet of Things, digital twins, and other advanced information and communication technology, because it is very hard to develop practical skills using distance learning. And then it is also necessary to choose and use proper tools for attracting attention of students during online teaching, because it is not so easy to attract attention of students, for example, during the lecture taking 1 or more hours. And again, it is also necessary to choose and use proper tools for exams. For example, it is necessary to choose a proper electronic software for examining, proctoring software, or to use other form of exams, as for example, projects, etc. And it is also important in the future to develop systematically competencies of teachers, such as technology skills, software skill, digital skills, pedagogical competencies, open-mindedness, etc. Up to now, it was more randomly than systematically developed. And it is also important to increase support from the universities for teachers as well as students. And it is technical support, software support, instruction videos, software tutorials, pedagogical training. Thank you very much. It is everything for me, and the screen is again yours, Katerina.
Monica, really, we would like to thank you very much, because you and all the moderators and the representative of the students managed in a very, very short period of time, really to summarize and wrap up what it was discussed during the last 3 hours. Before we close, I would like, in agreement to everything you said, or all of you, to give you the most popular answer in the pollings that ran during this workshop. One question for the teachers and one question for the students. When the teachers were requested, which are the top 3 challenges for teachers in distance learning, the most popular answer by 80% was keeping students interested in the course content. And me as a teacher, I would absolutely agree that this is the greatest challenge. The second most popular was make students feel included as a member of the class. In harmony with the response of the teachers, the students responded by 91% that staying focused and motivated to mentally show up for class was the key challenge for them. The second and third, collaborating with other students on group coursework and fitting the course in with family home work responsibilities. So it seems that there is an overall agreement towards the most important opportunities and challenges on the same time. And all the results, I think, we discussed during this workshop today, all of them pinpoint of how important it is to organize these university alliances. And everybody mentioned, both teachers and students, how much they enjoy this flexibility, this ability to work together with colleagues from other countries, from other campuses. And students mentioned that regarding how easier it is now, of course, always underlying the importance of face-to-face cooperation. Having said that, I think that we reached the conclusion of this workshop. I think that the objectives of this workshop were achieved to the highest possible degree. I would like to invite the Rector of NTUA to close the event and ask all of you to stay with your cameras open, all the panelists, all the moderators, and all the speakers, so we can take a group picture for this event, which was the first, if you want, organized event of our University Alliance, and we hope it's going to pave the way. Thank you very much. Professor Boudouvis, I would like to invite you.
Thank you for your participation, all of you, especially the students, and for sharing thoughts, concerns, and experience. Some of them very subtle, Jenny, and for your contribution in making the new normal in distance learning less of a shadow and more of a reality. We at NTUA tried our best, and we are already happy with the outcome of this workshop. I'm optimistic that time is coming that distance learning will not be a necessity but a choice, and the new normal will be a much better normal. Until then, let's get over with vaccination, fix our summer vacation plans, and be prepared, but certainly not fully relaxed, for the next academic year. Dear Alliance members, let's plan ahead in accordance to our motto, European Universities Linking Society and Technology. Remote teaching and interaction is at the heart of university alliances. Public events like today's event, although demanding, certainly help a lot to this direction. And as a matter of fact, such virtual events might remain a preferred choice in the new normal. Goodbye from NTUA. Greece is already in a summer mood and very inviting for that purpose. Stay safe, stay healthy, be connected, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, everybody. All of the colleagues from all the North, South, East, and Western of European Union. Thank you very, very much. It seems that nobody wants to leave this workshop.
All right, here it is.
Thank you very much, especially the students.
You did say something about a picture, I think.
Yes, yes. I think that there is a picture being taken as we speak.
Already, yep.
Excellent.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
And thank you, Katerina, for sharing. Of the organization.
Thank you, and thank the whole of NTUA team, especially all the technical team coordinated by Professor Ioanna Roussaki. We really thank you very much, all of you. Have a nice afternoon.
The same to you. Bye.